Do you think the Bondi event and the booing of the PM at Bondi has rattled him?
No, I don't think so, Andrew. I mean, I've obviously spent a fair bit of time with the Prime Minister over the last few weeks, in particular while we've been in Parliament, and what I see is someone who had resolve to tackle this issue, to tackle, as we've often said, not just the motive for these attacks, but the means for those attacks. And that's why it was so important to take action both on the hate speech elements of this that drove it, and also the gun laws needing to be reformed to prevent someone in suburban Sydney from owning 6 guns, and someone around whom there had been intelligence concerns regarding the son, but that were not able to be taken into account when it comes to gun licensing. So I see a Prime Minister who had a lot of resolve to deal with this incident, but also a Prime Minister who's resolved to really focus on the issues that most Australians are concerned about, which is cost of living, housing, healthcare, their jobs and the economy, and that's what we'll continue doing.
There was a report in the 9 newspapers this morning about a Discord chat between neo-Nazis with some scheme to kidnap the PM and subsequent police raids on them. Have people been charged, and was this a credible threat?
Look, all I know is what's been reported in the media, Andrew, so I can't really add to those reports. But obviously that is a really big concern in Australia, to see that kind of activity being undertaken by neo-Nazi and other far-right groups. I think the idea that any group within our community would be talking about kidnapping a Prime Minister and undertaking the kind of widespread violence that those chats reveal is a very deep concern. And again, that's exactly why we acted this week by passing that legislation to limit the activities of those kind of hate groups who are inciting hatred and inciting violence. And it'll be to the National Party's eternal shame that they did not support that legislation going through.
In terms of that legislation, how do we know, as constitutional lawyer Anne Toomey has speculated during the week, it's not just the Nationals, whether or not these hate speech laws you put in place might have unintended consequences, that they could be used to severely curtail freedom of speech, not just hate speech or threats of violence? There's particular concern around the use in the legislation of the term doing psychological harm in there. How can you reassure Australians these won't cause overreach from governments in the future?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked this, Andrew, and giving me the opportunity to explain what this legislation actually does, rather than the misrepresentation that's gone on by some over the last few days. If you have a look at the legislation, what it's doing is giving the minister, the relevant minister, the power to prescribe or list an organisation that is inciting a hate crime. It's not about stopping individuals expressing their views about particular groups or particular policies or particular countries. It's about stopping groups that are organised with a view to inciting hatred and to inciting violence and intimidation of other members of our community. Now, there's an important safeguard in there, which is that it requires the support of the Director General of ASIO, an independent officer in a highly credible organisation, and for the Director General to recommend that a group be listed, they need to believe that there's a reasonable risk that this group would increase politically motivated violence or communal violence. So that is the focus of these laws. It's not about cracking down on free speech. It's not about cracking down on people expressing a view. You know, we treasure free speech and democracy in this country, and we don't want to stop that. What we do want to stop is organised groups like neo-Nazis from organising, spreading hatred, inciting violence, inciting intimidation against other members of our community. We want to bring the country together, not see this ongoing division.